to 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness. And that was like being in a Vitamix on 10. Oh, but our contestants, they're pretty amazing, right?
And what do you think, Keisha? Did we make a good team? Are we an emerging dynamic duo? Andy and Keisha?
I think you mean Keisha and Andy.
Alright. Okay.
Now, while we wait for our contestants to rest their mouse hands and dream of some serious comfort food in their near futures, I'll remind you, you can still vote for your favorite Viz using these hashtags.
Alright, contestants, before you can relax, it's time for us to hear a little bit about your delectable creations. Joshua, great work. Congratulations. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your Viz?
Yeah, this all started with a story. I met my best friend in college. She's a first-generation Chinese immigrant. And early in our friendship, he took me to this Chinese restaurant, a family-run restaurant that he had very carefully selected after lots of research. And then he ordered a dish for both of us. And as we ate that dish, he shared stories of what it was like eating the same dish from his family table growing up in China. And that changed how I saw the world. And when I saw international restaurants in this data, I wanted to build something that allowed us to witness those kinds of potential stories, stories of breaking bread and breaking boundaries. You see here a map of the world as it's reflected from tabletops of international cuisine restaurants in the United States. A map of the United States that's showcasing the prevalence of international cuisine, but standardized against the national average, so you can quickly see which areas are above or below average, above in blue, below in orange. The small bars indicate the different cuisine regions corresponding to this chart up in the upper right-hand corner. You can quickly assess the drivers with those. Clicking on Asian allows me to see that the primary driver of Asian cuisine is China, but maybe I want to try Mongolian food, and I can see how many states do and don't have Mongolian food. Maybe I'm looking at European food, and I can see that it's predominantly focused in New England and the East Coast. Maybe I want to know about my home and what the tabletops reflect from there. I can click on Ohio and see the world map, or Nevada, we're in Las Vegas. What does the world look like from here? But there's more to this story. There's a lot of empty space in this map. Who's missing? This data is generated from SIC codes, which are assigned based off of a form that businesses fill out, assigned by the government. 148 countries in the world aren't in these SIC codes, and Africa is the most underrepresented region in the world, with 49 of 54 countries not showing up. And it's not like we don't get this cuisine. We often homogenize very diverse groups of people. 9% of international restaurants in the US are just called ethnic or international, no more specific than that. 18% of restaurants that serve some sort of African cuisine are just called African. These dashboards are about celebrating international cuisine and the people and the stories and the culture and the ingredients behind those things. But it's also a critical eye looking at how we think about and talk about other cultures and how that shapes and impacts data. I invite all of you to use this dashboard to share your own personal experiences. Experiences like my own of one friend and one meal that forever changed who I am and the way that I see the world.
All right, thank you, Josh. Ellie, Jock, and Chantilly for questions. Ellie, what would you like to ask Joshua?
Yeah, Joshua, it's a really interesting approach to the black-white, the positive, negative, what's there and what's not. I'm interested in the world map on your front page, which takes up quite a lot of real estate compared to the tile map, which has some very small bar charts. Can you talk about the use of space in your dashboard?
Yes, great question. I wanted the world to be the focus here. This isn't just about the US, this is about how the US's food identity is shaped by the rest of the world, how it has been, and how it is continually being refined by the rest of the world and the kind of cuisine we have here.
Great answer. Jock, do you have a question for Josh?
Yes, so on the normalization on the cartogram, can you describe that a little bit more for me? Exactly what you did?
Yeah, so I started with international cuisine as a percent of all restaurants. So that way we're not just seeing that New York has more people and there are restaurants and we're just seeing a population count. Once I had a percent of each kind of cuisine for each state as a reflection of all restaurants, I then compared that to what the national average is. So we can quickly get an assessment of which areas have more international cuisine or have less international cuisine.
All right, thank you. And Chantilly, do you have a question for Joshua?
I do. Joshua, I'd like for you to talk about your color choices, specifically for the map on the left-hand side, and the lack of a legend in helping the audience determine the different shadings and what they mean.
Yes, so blue as a prevalence of more cuisine was the reigning choice on this view of the data. Consistent in the above average for prevalence means there's more international cuisine. Wanted to stick with Tableau's default formatting for colors for two reasons. One, it's faster, let's admit it, I have a short period of time to build this stuff. But two, I'm relying on Tableau's trusted and tested science behind why they chose the colors they chose.
Well done. Why don't you tell us about this glorious Viz we see before us?
Yeah, so my dashboard is the restaurant rival revealer. So it allows the user to choose a brand and look at different metrics related to its location strategy. You can then compare those metrics to its rivals, which is calculated as the brands that have the most similar number of locations. So right now the dashboard is on Subway, so we can see they have 28,000 different locations across 13,000 different zip codes. When you compare that to its competitors like McDonald's, we can see that there's a pretty big gap between the two of them. So then when we go to average population, we can kind of see where Subway's strategy is. So we can see that the average population there is in a zip code that Subway is in is 20,000, but the next closest competitor is 26,000. So if we want to dig into that a little bit more, we can look at the other graphs in the dashboard. So if we want to look at where Subway is located, we can see that Subway is very geographically diverse across the United States. They have a lot of locations in the middle of the United States and on the coast, whereas when you look at the competitors, you can kind of see they tend to only appear where there's big metropolitan areas. We can confirm this a little bit further when we look at the population of each zip code. So we can see over here that 17.2% of the zip codes that Subway is in have between 0 and 5,000 people, with an additional 17% between 5 and 10,000. So this visualization really highlights the fact that Subway is focusing on being in populations with a very small amount. You can contrast this with Starbucks, who has a little bit of a different approach, who tends to have the majority of their locations in places that are around 25 to 30,000. You can then look at how many Starbucks exist in a single location to get a better idea of some of the opportunities for where Starbucks could expand or how their current locations are. So you can see that there's 22,000 zip codes that don't have a Starbucks at all. However, 2,357 of those zip codes do have a Dunkin' Donuts. So if Starbucks is ever looking to expand or add a new location, they can look to see where they have rivals and maybe those are markets they want to enter. Additionally, there are about 3,000 zip codes that only have one Starbucks and 2,800 that have multiple Starbucks, including the zip code we're in right now, Mandalay Bay, with 2 Starbucks right outside of here. So you can also see from this visualization that if you have a Starbucks, you're most likely going to have one of its competitors like Subway, McDonald's, or Dunkin' Donuts. So with my dashboard, you can run this analysis for every single different brand. With this custom dropdown that I built using parameter actions in the show and hide, you get a really easy way to visually see which brands have the most locations, and so you can guide that in your selection of different brands, and then just keep selecting different brands and continue your analysis over.
All right, great job, Lindsay. Chantilly, Timothy, and Ali. Chantilly, what would you like to ask of Lindsay?
Lindsay, I see that you've consistently colored, and I'll go back to color again. You've consistently colored each of the locations in all of the graphs, except for the one on the left, the maps in particular. Can you explain your decision in doing that?
Yes. Well, the first one was when I was using a density map. There's only like the Tableau options, and I didn't figure out how to like make them each colored to their specific one. And I also didn't really want that to be like the main intention of it and have too much color. So I thought it would be easier to just kind of make it a little bit subdued.
All right, thank you. Timothy, what would you like to ask?
So it looks like you've created an effective application that businesses could use to effectively make decisions, as you were also telling us. Can you tell us how you came to such a result? What drove you to build something like an application?
Yeah, so this is the type of stuff that I really enjoy building and the type of stuff that I do every day in my job, so I thought it was applicable to here. And as I was looking through the data, the thing that really struck out to me the most was how there's so many more subways than there are in the other application or the other brand names. So I thought, how could brands use this type of data set to kind of figure out where they want to go as their next location, or kind of figure out what their strategies are and look at their different things. And that when I developed, that was kind of the way I wanted to go. I thought a business dashboard was the best way to display that information.
Thank you. Okay, and finally, Ellie.
Yeah, Lindsay, it's a beautiful dashboard, great use of color as always. There's obviously a lot of different choices you can make with maps, and I'm interested in why you chose this particular representation of the data on the map and how that adds to the story.
Yeah, it is a little bit as you would expect to see that where the locations are, especially in regards to population, but I thought that seeing the maps of the different competitors was really allow you to see that Subway is all over the United States, whereas the other rivals really aren't, and so I thought a map was the best way to do that.
Great. Thank you, judges. All right. All right, Misha, well done. Why don't you tell us what you did with the data?
Thank you, Keisha. Hi, Data Fab. So as we know, that this data set is about food, and I love eating, and I'm also passionate about traveling and seeing diverse cultures. Exploring the data allowed me to find interesting insights, but two questions stood out to me. Does proximity influence cuisine dominance in the country? And what is the broad scale of culinary diversity level across countries? So let me take you on a journey through data and use a map to help answer those questions. So let's start by exploring the most diverse country in our data set, Canada. On the bottom right here, you can find a bar chart that explains the culinary diversity level. And you can see that 99% of restaurants in Canada are from other countries. And you can see on the top right here, the spread of cuisines in Canada. And you can see that it's dominated by Chinese and American. But let's not draw any conclusions from just one data point. Crossing the pond, I'm going straight to the United Kingdom. You find similar diversity level to Canada. But you can find that English people like India more than the fish and chips. And you can find also high dominance by a neighboring European country. Going all the way to Germany, that's when you start seeing a strong sense of national identity. More than 50% of restaurants in Germany are German, which makes the country a traditional country. And you can see a similar trend in behavior across European countries. Right, Italian. Turkey, the exact mirror of Italy. Going all the way to Australia. You can find in Australia a very high dominance of Asian cuisines. And this is justified by the Australian proximity to Asia and Asian countries. Going all the way to Brazil, going all the way to Japan. Actually, that's an interesting point. Japan is one of the two outliers in our data set. Japan is the only country that has a strong sense of national identity and an even split with one other country, China. going all the way to Brazil, high diversity level. Going to Mexico. Mexico is the second outlier in our data set, because Mexico is the only country in the Americas that has, in our data set, that has a strong sense of national identity. You can go to the US, and you can see how the American prefer Mexican over their food. And I hope you enjoyed this journey, and to answer our questions. Just to answer our questions, Australia, Japan, and the US justifies that yes, proximity is a factor. And also you can see on the top here, you can see countries with nothing more but national cuisines, and you can see on the bottom here a high diverse appetite. Thank you, Data Fam.
What is your question for Hisham?
So I'm going to have to crack this open and look at it. I'm not understanding
You haven't got time.
I know. So what's super interesting for me is on the right-hand view, how we have a dual axis with lines connecting them. No, I don't know how we did that.
Hisham?
So I'm all floating all the way, but all my dashboard is floating.
All right. Let's move on with Ellie. What would you like to ask Hisham?
Hisham, it's an amazing dashboard, great use of make line. I love the grouping, the colors. My question is also on the right. There's an interesting mapping. The mapping is kind of a central feature of the dashboard from the bottom to the top. But they're sorted differently. The top seems to be sorted alphabetically, which is perhaps not a very meaningful sort. Can you talk about what we can visually infer from the relationship from the bottom to the top?
So, this is a good question, and this is something I put thought into. I sorted them alphabetically because we have more cuisines than countries. And if I sorted the cuisines on top of the countries, how am I going to sort the rest of the cuisines? So it made sense and made logic for me to sort them alphabetically, and that's the reason why I used the connectedness of lines to show which cuisines relate to which countries.
All right. Thank you. Timothy, you got the last question.
Let me comment first, actually. So thank you for taking us on this trip. It was very interesting indeed. But I think when we moved from Germany to France, we may have forgotten to stop in Belgium to pick up some French. Still, though, very interesting indeed. I don't really have a question. I mean, no, I have 100 questions. I'm going to have to download the dashboard from Tableau Public and understand how this has been built, because it's quite a piece of work.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, Tim.